Biden, the mayoral election in Philadelphia, partisan politics. Why do you think this is necessary for Biden to say what's going
I, I mean, they didn't know what happened now
on?
they
Right.
already made their mistakes.
Then it looks weird. It looks like are they reacting to all of the swirl of the so-called walls closing in?
Maybe, but we have to throw all home. There was absolutely no reason this list could turn. Now, if you went through historical polling and what happened in history in elections, and so you almost have to throw all that out because here's someone that has a disaster at the border, has this crime problem across the country, has a horrible economy, took a great economy and made it bad, has unprecedented spending, has a mess in Ukraine. Mess. I could go on. I could go on for 10 more things. Supply chain in Afghanistan. There was nothing good, but he was smart enough to key in on a few emotional. And with that, he was able to do much better for the Democrats during the midterm. And I give him and his team a lot of credit because they're the ones that came out with the extreme MAGA Republicans, the extremists. And that worked. Apparently, when you look at the polls, this threat to democracy works. Nobody can define what it is, what's going to hurt democracy, but it works when they say it. And the abortion issue worked. And climate change for 11% Democratic Party works. So the Republicans, as much as they need to worry about now coming up with election day, make sure you get out there, you have options out as much as they have to do that, great. One everybody's crazy. Not, by the way,
The Travis Manion Foundation and Window Nation present Operation Legacy, a hero's home renovation project for United States
Good Friday, everyone. Welcome in. It is Dom time. Big issues, big guests. We have the president of the Central Bucks School District, which is under more immense fire today than ever, coming on at 12:30 today. Because I told you, we've been inside this story last night. Bill McSwain's group dropped a $1 million or thereabouts report of 150 pages saying it's a hoax. All this stuff that was going on in Central. Now, it's one thing to walk around, Dan. Yeah, people, oh, we knew that. No. It's one thing to walk around saying it's a hoax. It's another to prove it with legal documents, under oath, et cetera. And what this report maintains, the teacher that made the most fuss here and got suspended or is out, I forget which, actually knew about a transgender kid who claimed he might have been mocked or something, hid it because he was then going to say the administration doesn't do anything about this. That's pretty bad.
Yeah.
Might even be criminal at some point in the future. The other was this Karen Smith woman, Dan, who erupted in the middle of the attorney making the presentation and went nuts, a school board member who calls people Nazis. She's the one that wanted a full federal investigation. She triggered that. That came out. All right, now, why is this big stuff? It's not just about Central Bucks. It's all over America this is going on. And I love what this new school board is doing. The three leftover members, Dan, are out of central casting, though, as far as the far left, particularly the Karen Smith woman. My God, could you be more obnoxious? Come on
Yeah,
the show.
she's-
God, she belongs in Philadelphia. She's that good. So she'll be here
They got a recruiter.
to lay this out. And this transgender battle is on steroids in Central Bucks. As I often say, if they can bring them down, then they send a message they can bring any school board down because, Dan, they have the resources to get the very best. Dwayne Morris is one of two or three biggest law firms in Philadelphia, arguably in the top 20 in the country. They could spend $1 million. Now, I know that's a lot. The question is that worth it? I'll ask Dana Hunter. I think it is. And the reason why I think it's worth it is that you have to beat this back and you got to do it legally. You can't take this just mob mentality led by the ACLU overrunning everybody. That's what they're trying to do. All right, so we'll have that for you coming up. A couple of other things. Donald Trump yesterday did what I think is exactly right. And I do want you to get in. I think he's got the upper hand over DeSantis on this. Now, Trump is under fire from a major pro-life group. But this pro-life group is wrong. I don't care what they say. They're wrong. It's the Susan B. Anthony group. They went after Trump because Trump released a statement yesterday through his spokesperson saying that abortion is an issue that should be decided at the state level. And he is not for this bait and switch now of wanting to have a federal, the Lindsey Graham thing. Remember that right before we talked about it, right before the midterm? Lindsey Graham out there suddenly surfaces blabbing about a 15-week national bill that would stop abortion. Remember all that? Remember the damage that it did? We got to be consistent here. Trump is being consistent. He's saying, no, we believe in this being a states level issue. Now, the Susan B. Anthony people say President Trump's assertion that the Supreme Court returned the issue of abortion to the states is a completely inaccurate reading of the Dobbs case. Well, I beg to differ. They did. That's what Alito wanted to do. That's the point of emphasis. And it is, they say, morally indefensible for a self-proclaimed presidential pro-life candidate to engage in this. They say it's a matter of human rights, not state rights. Now, if you have a pulse at all, do you agree with me and Trump? Or do you agree with people who are, again, now going to get Republicans behind the eight ball even more because they lied? They said this was about states' rights. Let the states decide. And the Susan B. Anthony group, I don't care if they're a preeminent pro-life group. I don't take my marching orders from them. Do you? Well, then you're not pro-life if you don't. And she goes off saying that this is about human rights, brutal late-term abortions, California, Illinois, New York, New Jersey. How does she propose to stop them? A national abortion bill through Congress saying X nationwide. Now, A, that flies in the face of what conservatives usually say, and to be consistent. B, what are the odds of that happening? Just picture this. You know what the odds are? We're going to end up then getting shellacked even worse in 2024. They would run on almost nothing else, the Biden people, etc. You know it, and I know it. So are we going to take our marching orders from some of these pro-life groups? Who made them the moral arbiters to lecture to the rest of us? To saying you're not being principled unless you flout what you believe in and say that you must have a national law on this. Trump did not take the bait. And Trump, whatever his personal feelings are, has been a pro-life president. I would argue an effective pro-life president. What did he do? He appointed justices to the Supreme Court that gave us the Dobbs decision. What does the Dobbs decision do? The Dobbs decision returns this to the states where it ought to be decided. And you're going to see wild variations in the states. I maintain the Susan B. Anthony group doesn't care a whit about Constitution or anything else. They want their way, and that's it. They want to ban abortion completely, and that's it. I don't think that's going to fly. I don't think that's going to work. I don't think that's the way we ought to proceed, and President Trump agrees. And I think he thinks, and he's right, that he has Ron DeSantis behind the 8 ball on this with the 6-week bill in Florida. All right, so one other thing, I'll give you the side question. We'll get going here. This out of Lawndale, and 6ABC covered this. Imagine you're a FedEx delivery guy. You're working 10 o'clock at night. Not an easy thing, you know. I worked overnight. That kind of, you're in Northeast Philadelphia in Lawndale, which used to be considered a pretty safe neighborhood. Listen to what happened to this FedEx driver in Northeast Philadelphia last night, the way 6ABC covers it.
Now to a breaking overnight scary situation for a FedEx driver. Police say a group of teens shot up his delivery truck for some reason late last night. Somehow he walked away alive. Action News reporter Catherine Scott is live at police headquarters with the latest case of young people with guns causing mayhem in the city. Good morning.
Good morning, Tam. Detectives are interviewing that FedEx driver to see if they can learn more about what, if anything, led up to those shots being fired at the FedEx truck. Thankfully, that driver was not injured. Let's get to video from Lawncrest. You can see police on the scene examining those bullet holes in the windshield of the FedEx truck, another on the hood. At least 11 shots fired. The 39-year-old driver escaped unscathed. It happened on the 200 block of East Van Kirk around 10 o'clock last night. 911 calls came pouring in. Witnesses told police that the gunshots came from a group of about 15 to 20 juveniles, roughly 15, 16 years old, who appeared to be firing directly at the FedEx truck. The truck was hit 4 times. An unattended car parked nearby was also struck at least 3 times. The driver was shaken up, but not hurt.
It's amazing that this 39-year-old FedEx driver wasn't struck by gunfire, because 3 of the 4 bullets went through the front windshield, and clearly 2 of those bullets went through at the driver position.
There are outward-facing cameras on that FedEx truck, so police are hoping to be able to retrieve some footage and see if they can learn more about exactly what happened. We're live at police headquarters. Catherine Scott, Channel 6 Action News.
The cameras again. That's good in this case. But here's my summation of what happened. They were having a little bit of fun. It wasn't a robbery. They just thought they would shoot at this guy. That's how out of control Philadelphia is. They weren't robbing him. That's why everybody's saying, well, what's the motivation? The motivation is they're in a place that has completely no law, no rules, nothing, and they're going to fire at you. Again, I need to hear more of these candidates for mayor say, I'm going to take the throat out, not all kinds of 10-point plans here. A group of 15 to 20 just fire at the FedEx guy trying to make a living at 10 o'clock at night, and they hit on the driver's side. Thank God he wasn't hit. If he was, so what? In Philadelphia, we move on. By the way, fun story of the day, Dan. I didn't tell you this one too, just on the mayor. Let's talk about the mayor. So the mayor was dining the other night at the saloon. I like the saloon in South Philly. Nice spot. And it happened, maybe just coincidental, that George Paquetto was dining there.
Oh, okay.
And since we all know the mayor, because of the Wegmans story, loves wine, apparently.
Yeah.
A $45 bottle of wine. I don't know, George, if I would have recommended this. He may be more of a connoisseur than I. Do I have it, the name of the wine here? Because I want to look this up.
You have all the way to the detail of the name of the wine.
Yes.
So just real quick, while you look for that, Paquetto,
Yeah.
George Paquetto is a longtime powerhouse attorney here in Philadelphia, and has been very active on our show, especially around the situation involving the Christopher Columbus statue down in South Philly. At one point, even presenting Dom with a piece of the box that he helped to get removed from around that Columbus statue.
Which in all Krasner lands, etc. You see it on my wall at home, the Wall of Honor. I'll get it. Kenilworth something, I think. I don't know. $45 bottle, maybe.
Well, is it $45 at a restaurant or $45 like when you go buy it at a wholesale
I guess
store?
from the restaurant.
Okay, gotcha.
Okay. Anyhow, the card said, hey, drink on me or something. This is from Chris Columbus.
I love it.
And the mayor and his spokespeople said he declined the bottle of wine.
Really?
Yeah. Well, you know
what a
what?
guy. Come on.
I'd like to
no.
follow him outside. He may have declined it publicly, but he had the guy slip it in somebody's valise there or something.
Yeah, you know he's
out.
walking away with that.
Yeah, he's walking away with that. He's guy. We don't have to go to Wegmans this week.
The great words of George.
Thank you.
Paquetto.
Yes, a $45 bottle of wine. I'm not sending that over to Kenny. A joke's a joke. From Chris Columbus. Nicely played. I can see Kenny, the misanthrope. From Dan, I'll send him a bottle over from Oaks, Pennsylvania. All right. Here's the side question today. Yesterday.
I just got what she said.
Yeah.
That's great. Yeah.
Yesterday, in talking about what was yesterday's now? Oh, Dan's. Danielle's.
Yeah.
One of the most intimidating Dans of all time was put in as an entry. And we started kicking around.
I think the most intimidating Dan of all
Probably.
time. Yeah.
Somebody, real or fictional, alive or dead, who is or was intimidating in some way.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and make your case. Maybe you have one outside the box.
And I think it gets interesting here because intimidating can be physically intimidating, but it can also be something that comes with the person. Maybe it's power that makes a person intimidating, or money, the power using that money. You know, there's a lot that can make a person intimidating that just doesn't come with intelligence.
Beauty.
Yes.
I'm trying to think of who, if they were in the room right now, I'd go, oh my God.
I got one when we get to our answers. One of them I'm going to take off the board is experience that really intimidates me, and the respect I have for the individual.
I'm going to take O'Reilly off the board since he was on this week. First time you meet O'Reilly in person.
Yep.
It is intimidating. And in a strange way, Dan recommended this one for me, a fictional one, Walter White. Who says, I'm the one who knocks.
You want to think that a chemist or a chemistry teacher would be very intimidating.
Yeah, exactly right.
Yeah.
All right, who's yours?
I'm going to take an obvious one off the board. How about Mike Tyson? You know, Mike Tyson walks into a room, even with his lisp and his high-pitched voice, you still don't want to anger that guy.
I interviewed him once, and it was frightening, and he was brilliant in his own. I think he's a smart guy. You'd be amazed, Dan. If you just listen a little bit with him. You know, Mr. Tyson, are you ready for the interview? I hear people in the room, I'm not ready. I'll kill you. You know, no, he wasn't doing that.
And then behind the scenes, Dom, we joked about it when we first started getting this guy on our show. Yes. And over time, he's grown to become a friend of the show. And once you hear this is exactly what you'd expect from this guy. But I got to tell you, when I first started talking with him, I was so intimidated because I grew up watching him talk about the Eagles and his in-depth knowledge, his experience, and just the respect I had for this guy, and the respect that everybody in this industry had for the guy, that being Ray Didinger.
Yeah, we have to get him on next week. The draft coming up here.
You wouldn't think the guy's intimidating.
No, I got
for
you.
me,
no,
like a young guy in the industry.
Yeah, just because of the respect, the reverence, etc. All right. So 855-839-1210, you get on board. Boy, what a kind of motley crew, Dan, I have to say. The the Democrats are more motley. They have Biden, Marianne Williamson, or Williams, whichever it is.
It's
Doesn't
Williamson,
matter.
right?
It is Williamson.
She's the
yes. And
Crystals.
Robert Kennedy Jr., those are their nominees. The Republicans have just added Larry Elder. I mean, it's just an endless. And Vivek Ramaswamy is going to be on this week on the 26th. All right. So it's Dining with Dom. Tell people how they can do that every day at noon.
YouTube.com/@1210WPHT. We'd really appreciate your like and subscribe. We're trying to build this new YouTube page of ours and get this conservative message out to a broader audience, nationally. Minnie just wrote in, this is the discussion on today's Twitter or YouTube, it seems today. Dan is wearing a new hat.
Yeah, he is. Yes.
Yeah. So exciting. Yeah.
I think it ought to be No Hat Thursdays for Dan next week. You can get that started on Twitter, etc. It's a completely different look. You're shocked because of the hat. I'm wearing my summer fashion. Yes, I brought out the summer fashion.
My hair is so flat today. Look at this hat.
Look at that. I wouldn't be wearing the hat. I don't think it's good for the hair. I'm just saying. The summer fashion look, you can comment on that too. All right, it's 855-839-1210.
Got some yacht rock vibes coming off of you today, Dom.
Yes.
Yeah.
Not the shoes yet. I'm working on them this weekend. Big guest, though, at 12:30. We'll talk to Dana Hunter, who's the president of the Central Bucks School Board. This is the trench warfare of the transgender nonsense going on. This is where it's at when you need $1 million report to say this was a hoax. And what are they saying on the left, the ACLU and the others? We don't believe it. It's biased. They went out of their way to do this, that, and the other. I'll ask her about it. I don't see what they went out of their way other than to put people on the witness stand. Dan, let's play that Karen Smith so I don't forget. Here's one of the most obnoxious school board members in America. Karen, you know you are. Here's what she did last night when the lawyer was summarizing this $1 million report.
I would also like to add that I'm traveling this week and I was not provided any opportunity at all to review the report. No option whatsoever. So I have not seen anything, even right now, as everyone else has a copy, I guess. But I have some questions in general. So I really don't understand how it was.
There will be a time for questions after the report.
Is that Dana?
Yes, Dana Hunter. Okay.
Well, I think these questions are important before we vote to disseminate the report. So that's why I'm asking them now. I just want to know, how was it decided that we would actually do a report like this? Because at some point there was a choice. And it feels like we are working to try and defend ourselves rather than simply looking to see how we can improve our situation, as several of the speakers already mentioned tonight. We could have simply begun the steps suggested by the ACLU instead of going down the path of this report and this investigation. So I'm asking, when and how was the choice made to go down the path of this report and this investigation?
All right, Dan, we got the impression later on, though, just when she really erupted in the middle of it, like a half hour into the guy doing the report, which was incredibly thorough. People were put under oath, etc. She'll be here at 12:30. You're going to see a lot more on this because school boards have been taken over by people put in there by parents who are tired of this stuff. And if it takes $1 million to show that this is a hoax, the ACLU is a hoax, well, then that's what it takes. All right, intimidating at the end of your call is what we're looking for. I'd love to get your response to President Trump. I think his gut instinct is correct. DeSantis, I think, made a miscalculation. And who is the pro-life group to tell the rest of us that we don't believe in pro-life if we're consistent with conservative principles, which should sort of be state by state? And the more they say this, and the more Lindsey Graham says it, and a few of these others to do it at a national level, the more Republicans are going to get shellacked. You know that. The Trump people made the case too. How does this do anything good, this type of infighting of attacking him on this? They don't care. They're outliers. They're right and you're not. That's what it comes down to. Susan B. Anthony. All right, 855-839-1210. All right, Dan, I see a great one, possible win. Oh, man, two good ones up here already. One fictional, one of the most frightening characters I've ever seen in a film. Who is intimidating, real or fictional? That's the side at the end of your call today. Now, we've been talking a lot, and we've had quite a ferocious time with it, with the recreation center cameras in Philadelphia and all the back and forth. Now, rec centers in Philadelphia will get trauma therapy. It's something we never had. The Pennsylvania Commission on Crime and Delinquency is granting $999,000 to bring trauma-informed therapy and workshops to 6 rec centers and 12 summer camps. Notice again, my point in all this. If people are traumatized and all, it's good to have therapy. My point is, this is what we're doing. Cameras, therapy. They're going to station a therapist, Dan, at some of these recreation centers. What are we going to do when the therapist needs a therapist because they've been shot at? It's astounding what's going on. Do I even hear a nibble of someone saying, that's it, I'm turning everything loose. I may not be able to protect everything in Philadelphia, but you come gunning at a recreation center and it's over for you. Isn't that more of the stance? Well, we can't do it. We don't know what to do. It's out of control. Oh, that's interesting. Therapy now. Trauma experts at recreation centers. Wouldn't you think if you were outlaw, you'd have to say, you're not coming into these recreation centers. I'm stationing someone there. And they're going to know how to shoot. Well, what should they do? Should it be therapy? Bigger cameras, more speeches? 855-83. I'm not saying it's easy. I'm just saying, no, you can't continue to go down this path. My theory, Dan, is this. You can't do everything in the world. I realize that. But you got to establish piece by piece what I would call sacred ground, meaning where you dare not, because you're going to end up dead if you trespass in that manner here. We will take you out. It won't be we'll handcuff you, we'll chase you, maybe Larry Krasner will prosecute you. You're going to be dead. It's got to be something of that order. There's got to be a place where you can't do this. And currently in Philadelphia, the only places I can think of where you really can't do this are places like Rittenhouse Square and Chestnut Hill, because those people have clout and the powers that be would send in the National Guard if it happened there. So how come poor kids can't go to a recreation center and all we can give them are therapy dogs and trauma specialists? Why is that? I'd have to say that's a breakdown of society. I'd have to say that's a little bit beyond anything we've heard a solution to. I may be wrong, but I know this. If I were in that position running for mayor, I would say I am going to do what I just said. Now, I'm not sure of how long that'll take to work, and I'm going to do more of it. All right, let's take a couple callers. Who, real or fictional, is intimidating? Bill in Montco is next. Hey, Bill, good afternoon.
Hey, Dom, how are you?
Good.
My character is Anton, the bounty hunter in No Country for Old Men.
Oh, what a great answer.
Javier Bardem. It doesn't get any more intimidating than him.
Well, particularly when he says to the guy behind the counter, the older guy, call it heads or tails. And he goes, what are we playing for? And Anton says, you know what we're playing for. Oh, my God.
Right.
Oh,
yeah. That scene is a classic.
Yeah. Or the scene where why am I blanking on the guy who's purported to be an inside tough guy and all that he kills in the hotel? Oh,
Woody Harrelson?
Woody Harrelson. Even Woody Harrelson buckles and says, you don't have to do this. I mean,
right. Here's some money.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. That's a great one, Bill. What a start. Yeah, Dan, that guy is as intimidating. I don't like Tommy Lee Jones' character, though. It's too weird. He's a weird guy. I think he weirded it out even more with his dream, et cetera,
Yeah.
I don't know what his character was all about, really. All right. Dana Hunter, president of the Central Bucks School Board, is coming up next. Big interview here, given the dropping of this report, or at least the summary of it last night. Costs a lot of money. I think it's worth every dollar. The thesis seems to be what's been going on there. The claims are a hoax. Yeah, you know about hoaxes. Is that too strong of a word? I don't think so when you hear the details. We'll see what the reaction is. And again, this school district is the face of a lot of what I think is going on across the country. They just happen to be wealthier, bigger, and more educated, but it's a similar kind of battle going on. So we'll ask Dana Hunter about that next. First, though, let me tell you about my friend, dentist, and board-certified prosthodontist, Dr. Robert Bentz of the Bentz Dental Group in East Norriton. Now, I always enjoy talking to Dr. Bentz's staff and patients. And any patient that I've sent there always says Dr. Bentz really prides himself on being a problem solver. People come from all over. Other dentists refer the tougher cases to Dr. Bentz. So whatever your issues are, Dr. Bentz is going to develop a custom plan for your long-term oral health. And yes, give you the smile you've always dreamed of. Plus, if you or a family member has been avoiding going to the dentist due to fear, anxiety, even if it's been years. One woman I sent there 8 years, Dan, 8 years, hadn't been to the dentist. Dr. Bentz offers sedation dentistry. And if you've been putting off a nagging minor problem, take care of it now before it gets worse. From routine care to dental implants at on-site digital lab to great staff, they all make you feel comfortable and convenient. Get the oral care you need and deserve and that beautiful smile you've always wanted. Make that initial appointment. Visit BentzDentalGroup.com and book that appointment today. BentzDentalGroup.com or 610-272-6949. All right, Dom Giordano show. Dan, you have a little bit of last night. Is this Karen Smith at the Central Bucks School
I do
Board
have
meeting?
some more, Karen.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, here we go.
Yes.
Whoa, Karen.
So first I have to reiterate what I said when he was speaking, that I find this entire report to be a danger to our students. We clearly revealed some of their identities with the actions that were taken during this report. And I could not be more shocked.
Okay, gotcha. So that's one of the complaints. It's another hoax, but we'll put it out there. We've talked a lot about Central Bucks School District and what's happened with this relatively new school board. that I think has made great strides in a reasonable, methodical way to stop the excesses of some of the things that we've seen go on in schools across the country. Dana Hunter is the president of the school board and is doing a remarkable job, in my view. She's back with us on Talk Radio 1210. Hey, Dana, welcome in. Thanks. Last night, we watched, my wife and I, most of this. What did it feel like sitting through it?
Well, thanks for having me, Dom. I appreciate the time today. I would say I'm still overwhelmed with, just trying to process all of the information. There was a lot of information that was presented to us last night. It was a very, very thorough investigation with a lot of documents to support the findings. And I think I'm still in shock over some of the content.
Yes, it was. I have not quite seen anything like this. The main finding, if you will, and we'll put it down as a finding, we're not in a court of law on that per se, even though McSwain and the other lawyers, some of the most careful lawyers imaginable on stuff like this. It was excruciating, the detail, where it seems to be that the finding is that a teacher, rather than protecting a student who might have been mocked, something like that, who might be transgendered, that student and another student, he started a dossier, according to the findings, in order to use this to say that people like you and the superintendent and others were not listening to the complaints of students when he's the one that got the complaints and then didn't tell anybody about it.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And he was obligated to notify his administrators, his building principal. And quite frankly, she was somebody who was completely demonized through this entire process. And I feel terrible for what she's endured. Janine Salo, who is the principal at Lenape, where Mr. Burgess worked, she was accused directly of not handling these situations, and they were never brought to her. She actually proactively sought information about these students because she knew that they were potentially having difficulties and reached out to him preemptively, and he lied. He lied. It's really disturbing, the depths of which he went to not only house the information improperly, not disclose it to the people that could have helped this poor child, but he didn't do anything to help this child.
No, exactly right. And the reaction is not surprising. I think it'll get more intense, but you're able to handle it because this is factual, careful, factual. A lot of this stuff under oath, exhibits here, emails that were gotten in the proper legal manner. But the ACLU and others essentially are saying they don't care. And because of the people involved, including you that solicited this report or started this process, it's biased and they reject it because they can't, Dana, reject the careful legal documents and testimony that's in here.
Yeah, it's frustrating because when you look at the ACLU complaint, most of it's redacted. We still have never seen an unredacted version of this complaint. So you have several allegations in there, which ended up turning into a complaint that was opened by the U.S. Department of Education, which everybody wonders why the district go to these lengths. We had to go to these lengths, and I agree with you. I think that we had to. I believed, and I still believe, and I think we got the proof last night that the administrators and staff in this district care deeply for every child and advocate for every child and do everything they can to protect every child. And the allegations that the ACLU made and then the U.S. Department of Education took up, thanks to Ms. Smith, apparently, we had an obligation to A, look into those allegations and make sure our children were being properly cared for, and B, we had an obligation to make sure that the administrators and our staff are defended properly. If they are doing their jobs, which they are, we need to set the record straight.
Right. This gets to the cost of this. And we know when you bring in the best, which is necessary, but the media doesn't seem, and Dana, you're here, so you can talk about this a little bit. You mentioned some of the principals and others. When you hear the full force of the federal government potentially is investigating you,
Yeah.
very few people live under that. And when we know there's an apparent bias here potentially, because this issue, we know this administration on where they're going with it and looking for this stuff. And one of your own board members, according to the finding, triggered this and wanted to have other agencies involved. You're right. You can't just do a cursory investigation. You got to button this up as if this is almost a Supreme Court type of thing.
Yes, and these were serious allegations
Right.
made. And here's the other thing that's frustrating. You know, there were several OCR complaints, right? Only one of those OCR complaints has to do with policy, which has to do with the school board. Everything else was about what was going on in our schools. And those allegations are against our staff. They're not against me.
Yeah, that's exactly right. These are people who don't have on their own the resources, et cetera, their reputation in the community around this. So, I know your hope is that this will answer all those questions, the summaries out there, et cetera. But it appears to me that this will just be an ongoing issue here because there's a narrative out there. And I like the conclusion of this. It's not just a difference of opinion, but particularly with this teacher, the finding essentially is this was a hoax, and a hoax allegedly using young students who may have had difficulties. And you're right, I have a soft spot for that principal on her own who was reaching out with some sense of this and trying to the next year shield these students better from any kind of mockery.
Yeah. It's actually, I mean, when you take a step back and actually look at this situation, it is so disturbing to think that, you know, this teacher used his position, did not protect children properly, vulnerable children. And then not only that, what took place at that school, the Justice for Burgess, they weaponized these kids. They used these kids in a protest that lasted a week long where a special needs student had to be brought to the hospital because of the chaos that it caused.
Wow.
It's unbelievable what has taken place in this district over the last several months. And I'm very grateful that the board took these allegations seriously, that we spent the money we had to in order to find out what was going on, and that we know now that our administration and our teachers and our staff do what is best for kids and protect kids. And to me, everybody should take great pride in knowing that this district does what it's supposed to do.
And that's right. And this is through documentation, not, well, it feels like a pretty good district. Based on that principle is a perfect example. Based upon the emails, both actual fact that was contemporaneous, we see how much care was going on to protect all kids in this. Dana, thank you. Thanks very much for coming on. With any parting thought now, what happens next other than the report gets disseminated? What's next in your mind?
You know, I think that many of us have questions about what next steps look like. I know that Ms. Blossbaum brought that up during questioning last night, and I think that the board has, you know, we have some thinking to do, and we have to talk about what next steps look like.
Okay.
I don't have an answer to that.
Well, thank you for now, though. And again, I think this is an exemplar of how to do this stuff, given what the stakes are. Dana, thank you. Thanks for coming on again.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thanks so much for having me, Dom.
Dana Hunter, the president of the Central Bucks School Board, and I'd really like to get your response to this. I watched a lot. I was writing my column on it that appeared last night ahead of all these others. DelawareValleyJournal.com. You can read it. You heard my comments with Dana here. And the bottom line is the school board looks pretty good. The Central Bucks looks pretty good. These are documented testimony under oath. The ACLU and the narrative builders, they got their narrative. That's all that they want. They're going to use that narrative. You're cruel. You hate these kids. You hate transgender. And I think they were elected to do exactly what they're doing.
I can't continue to listen to this.
That's it. Yeah.
We are revealing student identities
No,
by
we're not.
sharing this information.
We are not,
This
we
is-
are not identifying anybody.
There's a lot of
By the actions that are revealed in these emails, clearly the students are going to know who this is about. This is horrifying.
Agreed.
I just can't.
Sorry, it is horrifying. It's horrifying to see that this child was bullied and that this person didn't do anything about it.
It's horrifying that you're
Okay, can
using
we
lots
continue?
of information
Can
about
we
the incident, and
continue?
other people will know who it
We
is.
voted to
This
hear
is
this.
not. This
Can
is not
we
okay for a student's identity to be revealed
No
in this
one's
way.
identity.
No one's
is being
identified.
revealed.
Was it
They are
okay
being
that this
revealed
child
without
suffered all
doubt.
that
This
time?
is all
We
a
need to
joke
mute-
narrative, and I can't believe I'm sitting here. It's
If you
disgusting.
If these children suffered
You
all
are
this
applauding
time.
the people that you have decided are the good people. You're giving credentials and college degrees and talking about their credentials and not the others.
These are their words.
Have you
All right,
talked
there
about
we
Mr.
go.
Burgess and how he was
There we go.
celebrated?
There we go. All right. Nobody's revealing the kids here. This was done in a court-like manner. I'm talking about at the highest levels, McSwain and this other guy. Give me a reaction at 855-839-1210. It's what goes on. This just happens to be on steroids across the country in school district after school district around these transgendered issues. That's what's fueling it. All right, we got the side question, too. Somebody intimidating. Let me go to Frank on Long Beach Island. Frank, who is it that's intimidating?
Hello, great show
Thank you, Frank.
today. Old school, Dirty Harry.
Oh,
Yes.
Yeah.
The scene where he's holding the sandwich and the gun. Well, do you feel lucky, punk? In all this confusion. I don't know if Jim does that line of the whole thing there. Thank you, Jim. Yes.
Player.
Yeah.
And Dirty Harry turns around and goes, or you could light yourself into a bonfire and we'll break out the marshmallows and the weenies, but you're not going to get on TV.
All right. 855-839-1210. You get in. All right. It's such a good feeling to know how many listeners are coming with Ro and me this summer to Italy. And the reason is I want to share it with you. I've been there before, and it's the most revisited country in the world. We'll hit Rome, Florence, Tuscany, Venice, Milan, the stunning Lake Maggiore at the foot of the Alps, and conservative tours. I have firsthand experience with them. We're going to get Giuseppe back on next week. That guy is we have a lot of fun with him. I am going to tutor him next week, though, Dan, on why it's gravy, not sauce. I don't care what Giuseppe and Frank Sinatra say. But other than that, they know how to make Italy come alive for you. Conservative tours, a plus rating with the BBB. I give you the big cities, but we'll do things offbeat, like we'll visit a medieval village or a Veto, an authentic balsamic farm, soak up warm afternoons rolling along the back roads of Tuscany and the wine. Jim Kenny wouldn't send, Jim, you can come. We got a space for you. It's $52.67. That's all, $52.67, including your airfare. The Coliseum, Michelangelo's David, the Vatican, and magical romantic Venice. Don't forget all those. 888-733-9494, 888-733-9494, or go to conservativetours.com. Dom Giordano Show, big issues, big guest. Dana Hunter, I think that's the first interview. And $1 million, just think about that. But the ACLU, the mob, the Karen Smiths, the others out there in Central Bucks, they just dismiss all that stuff because the narrative is there. That's what they want. And I haven't seen the coverage in the Inquirer yet. I'll have to look again. Or the Bucks County Courier-Times, but they've been on the side of what now is deemed a hoax. Another hoax. Another left-wing hoax. It's not quite Jussie Smollett, but it's a serious hoax. Let's go to Sarah in Doylestown, Talk Radio 1210. Hey, Sarah, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Was there at the meeting last night. I was horrified at the findings. It was so methodical, so money well spent in my view. But I have to say, you asked what should the next steps be. Mm-hmm. My recommendation, one, is to obviously Mr. Burgess has no business teaching in any school. If he was a mandated reporter, he admitted under oath that he withheld the complaints of the LGBTQ students, putting them at risk. The bullying probably continued because the administration and the guidance were not aware of it because he never reported it. They probably thought he did. Second of all, remove Karen Smith immediately. She has no business being on the school board either. She was championing Burgess. So if you're defending a teacher that was a mandatory reporter and did these things, then you have no business being on the school board any longer. And the same with the other two, Tabitha DeAngelo, Marion Mahmood. Third, there should be teacher training. Obviously, teachers like Andrew Burgess need to be retrained about the procedure of handling bullying allegations. And there's a whole list they went through. There's, 3 steps and all kinds of procedures for that. It's very comprehensive. He admitted that, he was aware of it and just chose not to do it for these kids for political purposes. And then also many of the candidates, the Democrat candidates for school board, were also part of the protests and the rallies championing Burgess. They have no business, but unless they renounce that and denounce that, now that the facts have come, they have no business sitting on the school board. They put the kids at risk.
Thank you, Sarah. Great methodical stuff. Fighting the narrative. Imagine, though, it's a well-heeled school district, $1 million, but I agree with her. What are you supposed to do when you have a hoax like this thrown at you and the federal government peering in there? You're supposed to just take what? Say we didn't do it? They're not going to stop on this. The school board is doing the right things, and they're going to continue. All right, coming up, Sam Warapisa was on the show. A Twitter site, Philly Crime Update, that we like, has a heck of a story about Pico taking down American flags that he had put up in retaliation. I'll give you that next. When you're touching the American flag, you better take down every flag in the city, Pico, then, not just the American flag. Hey, springtime can bring out the aches and pains as we begin to spend more time outside. If you're dealing with any form of inflammation, then Glyco Plus from Rescue Natural Supplements, that can help bring some relief. This green lipid muscle complex is blended with UC2 collagen to help support joint health. This type of collagen is a key component of joint cartilage and essential for its strength and elasticity. And right now, Rescue Glyco Plus is buy one, get one free for anyone with our exclusive radio offer. Just use the code WPHT Relief to double up your order for free. Again, that's WPHT RELIEF. Call them today at 800-26-ALIVE, 800-262-5483. You'll speak to a knowledgeable rescue product consultant. You can also use the code online when you visit res-q.com, res-q.com. Get back into action with less pain and more comfort. Again, use the code WPHT Relief. Double up your order of Rescue Glyco Plus for free.